So I was raised as a middle-class kid.
I grew up a middle-class kid.
I grew up a middle-class kid.
I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people.
You know, we have ambitions and aspirations and dreams.
The ambition, the aspiration, the dream.
I started my career as a prosecutor.
I was a career prosecutor for most of my career.
Having a background as a prosecutor.
I intend to create an opportunity economy.
Developing and creating an opportunity economy.
What I imagine and believe and call an opportunity economy.
You know, when we talk about our children, I know for this group, we all believe that when we talk about the children of the community, they are the children of the community.
I grew up understanding the children of the community are the children of the community.
Oh, no, 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 no. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the OLearys Show. I know it's become status quo for me to say that today we got an interesting episode, today we got a hot episode, but I must admit and I must repeat that today we got a really interesting episode. This is an issue that's really been getting my attention, that I believe more American voters should be paying attention to, which is the issue of taxing unrealized gains. So I was just minding my business one day and I came across this video on YouTube, and it was on Fox News. So Kevin OLeary was interviewed on YouTube. It's quite evident that he is a Republican. Well, it's very evident that at least he's more inclined to Trump's campaigns. And when you hear his thinking, it's really like the policies that influence that. Because remember, Kevin OLeary, for those who don't know, is one of the characters on Shark Tank, right? He's known as Mr. Wonderful, a very prominent investor in the United States. In fact, he kind of has a reputation for being a little bit frugal with his investment decisions, but he kind of makes the show interesting alongside Mark Cuban and the others. So he's talked about the issues of taxing unrealized gains. And, you know, from what he said in the interview, he kind of alludes to the fact that other people who are very key investors in the economy have been approaching the advisors around Kamala Harris to understand the thinking around the taxing of unrealized gains. If you refer back to some of the previous episodes, there is a specific episode where I hammer this heavily, and I really discuss the implications of it. And after hearing Kevin OLeary's interview, it kind of sounded like he had very similar concerns to me. So Kevin OLeary approached the team of advisors who are advising Kamala Harris, and this, according to the interview, is the feedback that he got.
Look who's here, the man himself, Kevin OLeary. Kevin, great to have you back. Look, I'm none the wiser about her policy. Are you?
No. This is getting challenging with, less than 60 days to the election. And so if you're an investor, you face the reality of having to continue investing whoever's in the White House after November 5th. And so what I've been doing, and others in the investment community are doing the same thing, we're going directly to her advisors to try and glean some information about what's really going on here. I'm not going to disclose their names because I don't want to lose access to them, but I've been doing a lot of that in the last week. And so let me give you an example. In querying about this idea of taxing unrealized capital gains, which would basically destroy the economy and change the way every investor would invest and chase capital out of the country, I've been told, listen, don't worry about it. Just be happy. There's no way Congress would ever pass that. She has to keep saying that to keep her base happy, to bring people out to vote for her. But that's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. When I talk about some of these policies around student loans or controlling pricing at grocery on consumer goods, which has been tried in many countries, Venezuela, Cuba, the old Soviet Union, we know that doesn't work. Don't worry about it. Be happy. That'll never happen. It'll be blocked in Congress. So that's what her policy advisors are saying. And my question simply to them is, why can't she say that herself? Right. Why do I have to get it through you? And if it doesn't work out that way, don't I have a lot of risk, particularly around corporate tax rates? Yeah. Proposal at 28 would put us in the bottom quartile of competition globally in the G20. Don't worry about it. Be happy. Yeah. Well, I'm not happy. Right. And I think a lot of other people are not happy. We just need her to sit down and talk to the press, which she has to do because it would be unprecedented for this election cycle to end with her never talking to the press. No presidential candidate in modern times has ever done that.
That is true. I'm going to change the subject for a second. Donald Trump says he wants to bring SALT back. This lets you deduct the state and local taxes that you pay, deduct them from your federal tax return. Now, Kevin, this would be a huge break for a lot of taxpayers in New York and New Jersey. OK, it's vote buying, but, you know, it might be effective.
Vote buying is an understatement. If you talk about New York State, New Jersey, and some of these jurisdictions where he's challenged, I totally get why he's doing this. And it's 100% political. The SALT has been so controversial in every tax plan. I mean, you just can go back to when it was first instituted, and it's had half the base hating it and the others just loving it, depending on where you are. And I think if you're in New Jersey and New York, you really want this policy.
Kevin, I want you to listen to hedge fund manager, you know him, John Paulson. He's warning about a Harris victory. Watch this.
If Harris was elected, I would pull my money from the market. I'd go into cash and I'd go into gold, because I think the uncertainty regarding the plans they outlined would create a lot of uncertainty in the markets.
You're on board with that, Kevin, I think. It would be bad for the markets, a Harris win, right?
Well, it depends what happens between now and election. If she came out tomorrow morning or even this afternoon after the Fed decision and said, here's my 10-point plan specifically around taxes, around these plans she's been talking about. The housing, $25,000, I was just kidding about that. That's so inflationary, it's stunning. I can't even imagine that ever being permitted in Congress. Even if she won more seats in the House, no one would ever do that. So these policies are crazy. I'm not that as an extremist. I mean, I do have gold. I do have a lot of cash sitting around because of uncertainty. But I have to invest the day after, even if she is elected. And then I have to hope, I have to cross my fingers, you know, this is the new boss and we won't get fooled again. And that these policymakers that are giving me this just be happy, well, maybe I'm going to have to get happy. But right now I'm not happy. And I really, really want some policy. I really do. And I think the rest of the market does too. And that comment gives you some idea about how much angst there is out there.
I'm not sure we're going to get this policy statement, by the way. Kevin OLeary, always a pleasure. Thanks for seeing us, man. We'll talk to you again later. Thanks a lot.
So you heard the interview on Fox News with Kevin OLeary, where he's expressing his concerns around the proposal related to taxing unrealized gains. So we've highlighted that Kevin OLeary is an investor and he appears on Shark Tank. There are obviously many investments that he doesn't make on TV or in any reality TV show, I assume, right? So I have been expressing my concern in previous episodes, and I've been talking to people and telling them about my concerns. And to be honest, someone did kind of make me alert and said, listen, Amanda, this policy is applicable to people who have net worth of $100 million or above, right? So Kevin OLeary's net worth, according to reliable sources, is $400 million, right? So that still doesn't really shake my concern, because referring back to some of the previous episodes, I did say that, you know, a lot of the investors that move the needle in the U.S. economy happen to be people that are in that tax bracket. There's millionaires with net worth above $100 million and people in the billionaire bracket with net worth of $1 billion plus, right? So Kevin OLeary, as stated before, goes to the tax advisors, and I'm sure that he was alarmed when he heard about the proposal to tax unrealized gains, and he went there and said, like, listen, what's going on? And he understood that other investors who were also in that bracket, very wealthy people, also were concerned and also approached their investors. He also shared the sentiment that this could potentially destroy the economy, because if you tax unrealized gains on top of the capital gains tax that you're going to get when you cash the money out of any investment, in this case investment in smaller businesses with great growth potential, he kind of feels that this could potentially destroy the economy because it's going to completely disincentivize investment, right? It's going to disincentivize investment because it's going to destroy the returns on investment for these investors, and as a result, it's going to make investing in U.S. businesses very unattractive. I'm pretty sure a lot of us agree that for the U.S. to remain relevant, we got to win the tech race and we got to win the AI race, right? A lot of this technology is coming from people that don't necessarily have the capital, but they have the talent and the ideas to create the technology, and they need access to funding. And that's all we've seen over the decades, the whole venture capital community really growing and booming around Silicon Valley and funding that. And Silicon Valley and the west coast of the United States is not the only place where you do see huge investments in such ventures, right? So the feedback that he got was, don't worry, be happy. Kamala Harris is just saying this in her campaigns just to, appeal to her base. It's not necessarily going to be passed by Congress. So just don't worry, be happy. We're just doing this to keep the base happy so we can win the votes. And he also addressed the concern around, the price controls of groceries, right? In one of the previous episodes, if you look at my YouTube channel, there's a specific episode where I kind of allude to the U.S. potentially becoming Marxist, because that's a very Marxist thing. Kevin OLeary, like I did, gave examples of some Marxist countries or further left countries such as, Soviet Russia, Venezuela. I gave the example of some African economies such as Mozambique during the Marxist era where the government did implement price controls of food, and that did cause disequilibrium and it did really destroy the economy. He addressed the same concern. So he said the same thing to the advisor, and the response again was, don't worry, be happy. And he said, why can't she say that herself? I am not happy, and I equally was not happy to hear that, because I've seen what that's done to other economies, and it's really alarming. And I've seen a very interesting correlation even in the chatting threads of my own channels. It's like people that come from South American or African economies that have gone through that and have implemented this policy do know how detrimental that is to the economy, right? And as part of the interview, we also hear a snippet of John Paulson, who is a billionaire. John Paulson, according to reliable sources, is worth $3.8 billion, right? So the policy of taxing unrealized gains is also going to influence him, because he's in that tax bracket of people that are above $100 million in net worth, right? If you look at the statistics, right, this could potentially destroy stock market investment. It can destroy private equity investment, and it can destroy real estate investment in the United States. Why do I say so, right? If you look at the U.S. stock market, for example, 70% of the capital that you see circulating in the market is coming from financial institutions, and it's coming from billionaires that really move the needle, right? So people who are like middle-class investors don't really move the needle. So when you see prices swing up and down in stock markets, this is the class of people that's really moving the needle in that. Point number two, I've seen statistics. I was once participating in a seminar about tax-free accounts. And in that seminar, it was revealed that 70% of the people that become billionaires in the United States do so through, number one, private equity, and number two, real estate investment, right? Private equity is investment in any sort of private business that's not listed in the stock exchange, right? So in this case, venture capital investment or even angel investors activity is part of this. So they invest in businesses with immense growth potential, and due to the growth potential, the valuation of the investment goes up, and a lot of these people graduate into the billionaire status. So from the 70%, 42% comes from the private equity investors. And it did also state that the remaining 28% in this class are people that invest in real estate. A lot of people invest in real estate and they graduate to billionaire status. How do they get to billionaire status? Through capital gain, because the value of the money grows. And through that growth, they eventually pay capital gains tax, and what remains is their net income. And obviously they have to pay other fees, they have to pay legal fees and a bunch of other management fees that I don't understand thoroughly, right, to be honest. But still, that helps them graduating and accumulate wealth. And I assume that a very high percentage of people get into the millionaire status through this activity. Now, if you tax capital gain tax on top of, not capital gains, sorry. If you tax unrealized gains tax, that means that on top of the capital gains, you're taxing the unrealized gains. You're getting taxed on unrealized gains, rather. So before you cash it out, you're going to get an extra tax bill that's going to hurt your returns even further. So John Paulson and Kevin OLeary's interpretation of this policy is the very same as mine. And John Paulson said, we're talking about a billionaire worth $3.8 billion. He said, if Kamala Harris wins the election, I'm going to pull out my money from my investments and I'm going to invest in gold. I'm going to keep it in cash. That is a very bad statement. Why? Because cash is not really an investment instrument. Cash actually depreciates because cash has an enemy called inflation. Cash loses value over time, right? And gold is not really an investment instrument. It's almost like an insurance, because if you look at the previous century, gold has lost value more than any fiat currency is because gold is real money. So it's not an investment instrument. So in other words, he's gonna, move away from investing, and he's gonna adopt a more defensive strategy. He's gonna go from growth to defensive strategy, and this is the billionaire saying that. And one thing we need to consider is that the United States stock markets contribute to 42.5% share of the global market. So almost 50% of the stock exchanges worldwide is capital in the US stock market. And this particular policy is a huge threat. So either way, the very same thing, I was really shocked to hear that her advisors are saying the very same thing that people in my circle are saying. It's like you're proposing something that is so destructive to the economy to win votes. This is very destructive. In my opinion, it's kind of more destructive than a lot of these policies that could potentially widen the fiscal deficit in the economy. And people in my circle telling me the same thing. No, hermano, don't worry. This is all talk. It's not going to happen. And I'm like, guys, why do you propose something that's going to destroy your economy in the first place? Why don't you propose something smarter? There are other ways of incentivizing people for home ownership. There are other ways of incentivizing investment, other ways of incentivizing small businesses without doing something so destructive that would just kill investment. This could potentially turn the United States into an economy that's not attractive to invest in the first place. In my opinion, the United States is an amalgamation of immigrants. Almost anybody that's not, in fact, anybody who is not a Native American is an immigrant somewhere down the line in their family tree, right? And it's called the land of opportunity. The reason why they call America the land of opportunity is because, it's people have a very strong entrepreneurial spirit. You see, it's a free market generally, right? It's not 100% free market because obviously within the United States, you find that different states do vary on the spectrum of left and right. Obviously, the blue states are more on the right, and the red states are more the blue states are more on the left rather, and the red states are more on the right. But in general, because it's a free market economy, it just generates more opportunity. I do know people who are immigrants who claim not to be materialistic. No, it's not about money, but what got them into the U.S. in the first place is the fact that they had more career opportunity regardless of what they do. And it's the fact that it's a free market economy. If you start implementing policies that could potentially destroy this economy and slow down the very thing that made it a great economy, that's a very destructive thing. So my last comment is this. One day I was having a conversation with a neighbor of mine, someone that I highly respect, right? And she's of Haitian descent, and I was kind of expressing my sympathy around, a lot of the noise towards the Haitian community, right? On one hand, I feel like the noise was addressing a very bad immigration management, but on the other hand, I kind of felt like it was labeling a brand of people quite negatively. But I do know a lot of people who are Haitian, very respectable, hardworking, honest people who don't deserve to be labeled or painted with that brush. And she kind of addressed that concern. And, she told me listen, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. I'm going to exercise my right? And I was like, listen, man, I respect your decision, right? But do you understand the implication of this policy? I actually gave the example of taxing realized gains. And I said, listen, to be fair, this was before I understood that this was applicable to people that have net worth of $100 billion or above. I thought it was for everybody because the first time it was addressed, it sounded kind of vague. And I was like, listen, what investment do you guys have? And she told me that her and her husband have invested in a mutual fund and have done so for some time. Her husband happens to be somebody that sells instruments such as insurance and mutual funds and annuities and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, listen, so right now with the mutual funds you've probably invested over a couple of years. She said, yeah. And you guys are probably making gains that are unrealized. You haven't cashed it out. She's like, yeah. So I told her, listen, the concept of taxing realized gains means that on top of the tax that you're going to pay when you cash out the money, which is a capital gains tax, you're going to receive an extra bill of taxes of the unrealized gains, like taxing the gains that you haven't cashed out. You got to be taxed on that. You know that? And her eyebrows went up like, what? I'm like, exactly. This is what it means. So, it's really concerning when you look statistically. Even if you look at the rank of the top concerns of U.S. voters, you find that these fiscal issues are really at the bottom of the totem pole. They're at the bottom of the food chain. And I kind of wish that people paid attention to this issue a whole lot more. So even if this is only applicable to people that have net worth of $100 million or more, I mean, these are the people that are really moving the needle in the economy. A lot of the real estate projects you see in the country, a lot of the businesses and the next generation businesses that are going to revolutionize the world are being financed by this very class of people. If you make this not attractive to people, you're going to make a lot of startups, a lot of businesses, and a lot of projects resort to leaving the United States and looking for more attractive jurisdictions, and a lot of the capital is going to follow that. But anyways, let me know what your thoughts are. This is a really interesting topic, and let's make a wise decision when it comes to November. God bless, and see you in the next episode. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Mustari Show.